about the unlawful arrest, detention, and assault by a New York police officer upon the ambassador of St. Vincent and the Grenadines to the United Nations, Camillo Gonsalves. And to begin by saying that the government is already taking vigorous action, both at a diplomatic level and making all the preparatory steps on the legal front in respect of the illegal detention, arrest, assault, and battery upon the person of our ambassador, and from a diplomatic standpoint now, the violation of our sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity and dignity as guaranteed by the Vienna Convention. Now, in summary, you will find what transpired in an Associated Press report which had spoken to Camillo. And it's on the net.
Right.
You would have seen the Associated Press report. The story, the facts given to me by Camillo are as follows. In a nutshell, he was returning to the mission office, our mission office in Manhattan, New York City. After the luncheon period, they had a meeting, a number of ambassadors had a meeting with Taiwanese officials. In this mission building, it's an upstairs and downstairs, it's several stories high. There's several missions. There is, importantly, when you're discussing this, to know that one of the missions there is the Israeli mission. There is Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dominica, St. Lucia. There's the Gambia, maybe another one or two African countries and some Pacific countries. Camillo did what he does every single day practically for the last 5 years. Certainly every day he goes to his office. There is these movable metal barriers,
right,
which try to control crowds. We see them here in St. Vincent too.
That's true.
When we have House of Assembly and so on,
they were used as battering ram, as we recall, to ram the gates of Parliament.
Those kinds of movable things,
right,
movable objects. Outside the building, there is a booth in which is located a New York Police Department officer, an NYPD police officer. I suspect it is there not just because of general protection, but I said the Israeli mission is there. Camillo arrived in the vehicle owned by the government with diplomatic number plates. The driver is a Vincentian, black man, a Rastafarian, keeps himself very neat. Coming out from the vehicle is Camillo, a nattily dressed diplomat. He enters his building in the way in which he had done so, as I say, practically every day. Moves the barrier slightly, passes it, goes into the lobby. As he passes the barrier and goes into the lobby, he hears a shout from the police officer. He paid it no mind. The officer came inside and said, "Didn't you hear I call you?" Camillo said, "I heard you call, but I didn't think that you were calling me." Camillo by this time is by the elevator. He holds Camillo at his neck and shoulder and spun him around and said, "Where is your ID?" Because of the physical manner in which he treated Camillo and the request for the ID, Camillo said to him, "What happened? You're arresting me?" He said, "You're now under arrest. Show me your ID." Camillo is showing him his ID. He handcuffs Camillo on his left hand. Tells Camillo to put his hand behind his back. Camillo keeps his hands in front. He squeezes the hand with the handcuff. In fact, he has caused some damage to the nerves in Camillo's hands, his left hand. The police officer calls for support from 2 other police officers. They arrive. Remember, Camillo is not resisting. He's just not cooperating. He has done nothing wrong. Remember this too, that the lobby, which is a common lobby for all the missions, and therefore part of the property rights of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, because St. Vincent and the Grenadines is a lessee of an office space.
Okay.
And for a diplomat, that territory is inviolable. The 2 officers came, they assisted, they handcuffed Camillo. Meanwhile, the deputy head of the St. Vincent mission, St. Vincent and Grenadines mission, Nedra McGill, calls the U.S. mission at the United Nations to inform them of the incident. And at the same time, one of the other officers, somebody there called a senior officer for the NYPD. These 2 gentlemen arrived more or less around the same time. And of course, they told the fellow, I mean, this is the ambassador. In the meanwhile, other ambassadors had come through the building and said, "Listen, this is the ambassador, St. Vincent and Grenadines, release the man." People in the building have come and said, and they're saying, among other things, what happened is because he's young and black. Huh? Why are you dealing with the man like this way? The 2 gentlemen who came told the officer to take off the handcuff. He wasn't doing so. So the senior officer who had arrived took off the handcuff from Camillo. The American official from the UN, from the American mission at the UN, said to Camillo, go to your office, I'll come up there. He came up. And of course, his role was trying to smooth over the thing, put it under the carpet. And Camillo said, "Well, no, this can't be done. This matter has already reached the foreign minister of my country, and in fact has already reached the prime minister, because I was informed by the foreign minister as soon as he was informed. In fact, I was at Lucy Cato's funeral when I was informed."
Okay.
And that is it. There were other the American gentleman from the mission asked if the police officer can come up and if they can shake hands on it and just call that. Camillo says, "No, I can't do that." He asked if the police officer could come up and talk to him. He said, "Absolutely not. This is the territory of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and I'm not giving permission for any NYPD policeman who has just assaulted me to come in here and talk to me." Right. So the American official said, "Well, suppose you bring a charge." Camillo said, "Well, I'll be quite pleased if he brings a charge, because I am bringing one in relation to his unlawful action, my detention, and my and the assault upon me." Camillo went to the I advised him last night to go to the hospital. His mom, who, as you know, is a professor in New Jersey, had advised him that earlier, and he accepted our advice. He went and did X-rays and so on, to get a full report and all that this morning, plus a written report of the incident.
Okay.
In the meanwhile, our ambassador to Washington has been mobilized. She's informed the State Department. CARICOM ambassadors and the ambassadors in the building have been engaged. They're making statements this morning. The government of St. Vincent naturally will be protesting to all the various persons, to the United Nations, Secretary General, Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton. I'll write the President of the United States. I'll see him in Colombia on the 13th of April. I will hopefully get an opportunity to talk to him about this matter. I will, the entire diplomatic offensive would be done. Then we are assembling a team of lawyers. I've asked Camillo to begin that process. I myself will be involved in it. Locally here, there is a lawyer who is a patriot, who is trained in New York City, and he can practice there. Jomo Thomas called him, and he has consented to be on the team of lawyers when we take the action. And I called also last night the leader of the opposition to give him. He sounded to me quite shocked. In fact, he said, "What?" In a responses which was, as I said, that you're shocked that the police will behave in this manner. When I get the report from Camillo, I'll send it to him. I called him because this is not a matter which I want to be subject to divisive politics. This is a matter, he's our ambassador. It's our country. It's our territorial integrity. It's the dignity and independence of the country. Of course, there are always going to be some people who are going to want to make petty politics in the domestic about it. Exactly. But I'm focused in this matter. The government is focused. And the policeman was just simply wrong.
Okay.
Simply, absolutely wrong. And, Camillo told me that when the gentleman from the mission came, the American mission, UN mission, and the senior officer, and the fellow was talking quietly to the other two policemen, the offending officer, and saying, well, I couldn't allow him to come in the building. He could have been a terrorist. He looks like a terrorist.
Wow.
I mean, this is a man, as you know, Camillo is impeccably dressed when he's going about his official duties. You have seen him on the podium at the United Nations. You have seen him on video. And he carries himself with dignity.
So true.
Now, in the United States of America, as you are aware, there are different Americas. There's an America which is very tolerant, which accepts universal values, which is good-natured. It is that America, for instance, which elected President Obama. Doesn't mean that those who didn't elect him are not good-natured, but there's a significant number of persons in that other America who, as we know, do all sorts of profiling. They make assumptions about young black men. Now, we have to be very careful in the handling of this matter to maintain all the principles to be applied and to do so resolutely.
Okay. Prime Minister, before you wrap up here this morning, you said that Camillo, sought medical attention. He went to the hospital. There were X-rays done. But I'm reading the website here, caribjournal.com, where it says that the police said that there were no injuries sustained or reported and no medical attention was required.
Well, that's the Caribbean Journal quoted the policeman.
Right, that's true.
I mean, he told me there's a numbness in his left hand and there was a tingling sensation.
Okay.
And the doctor who dealt with him told him that it doesn't look, at the time when I spoke to him, he didn't get the X-ray results. He said that didn't think that there was a break, a fracture. Mm-hmm. But it appears as though that there are there's some problems with the nerves in the hand now. Mm-hmm. And Camillo complains of a pain on his shoulder. Naturally, if you're grabbed forcibly on your shoulder and neck, there would at the very least be tenderness.
So true.
And if you tighten a handcuff on the hand, mm-hmm. Now this official and those who would want to do any cover-up can do their cover-ups, which they want to do. But this government is going to be resolute. Camillo is a witness of truth. And more than that, thank Almighty God that all of this will be on tape. Because in the lobby, because it's an embassy, it's a building where it houses several missions. Mm-hmm. It's videotaped, and Camillo tells me that he has asked already for the videotape. And there is a gentleman who happens to be a Trinidadian who works in the lobby. And he has told Camillo that he will give a statement attesting to the unlawful behavior of the policeman.
Okay.
So, I know, let me just say this, that locally, because I understand already, on one radio station, I was told in Too Cool Chris, this is what that some persons called in and said, well, he said, do you know who I am? Nothing like that. Everybody knows that Camillo is not an arrogant fella. Mm. Huh?
That's true.
In any event, he would have been perfectly within his right to say, do you know who I am? I'm the ambassador of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Right.
Because that is his embassy. Mm-hmm. The space which he occupies is part of the territory of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and governed by the Vienna Convention. Right. So to his person.
Sure.
In the same way that American diplomats who come to St. Vincent and the Grenadines get all the protection. The Venezuelan embassy and the house, even though they are rented from Vincentians, they are Venezuelan territory. Same thing for the Taiwanese mission and residence. Mm-hmm. Same for the Cuban, the Brazilian. That's the law. That's international law by virtue of the Vienna Convention. So we need in the national context to be united on this issue mm-hmm. and defend the country. I'm not talking about Camillo, mm-hmm. to defend the country.
Right.
And its independence and sovereignty and territorial integrity and its territorial space, including our missions.
Right. Prime Minister, you mentioned that the persons already, putting a negative spin on it with regards to calling in other radio stations. You also mentioned that you had a conversation with the leader of the opposition who expressed shock, at the news. Do you, having had that conversation, do you get the feeling that the leader of the opposition is prepared to speak to the other members of his party and express to them the fact that there's no need for his party?
No, I didn't address that.
Oh, you didn't address that.
I didn't address that. All I did was to indicate to the leader of the opposition what had happened,
Okay.
and said to him that I'd give a report. I'll send a report to him, and that this is not a partisan political matter.
Fair enough.
So I declared what my perspective was, and from his reaction to me, there was no reaction to suggest otherwise than shock,
Okay.
and was awaiting the report from me.
All right.
So his reaction was not negative. The issue, of course, is that I had a duty to inform the leader of the opposition,
All right.
because this is a St. Vincent and the Grenadines matter.
Yes. So true.
So I've done my duty, and the leader of the opposition will know his duty also. So those are the matters.
Okay.
They're clear. In fact, I even asked him. I said, because I know his son, who is a Rastafarian or holds some of those beliefs. I simply asked him. I said, your son gets problem in the U.S. He said, yes, he gets problems. I just, because I just want to contextualize all of this.
Right, so true.
Yes.
And I repeat, our ambassador did absolutely nothing wrong.
Okay.
In fact, had he done anything wrong, he would have been charged with an offense.
That's true.
Now, and anything which the New York police were to bring as a consequence of us taking our action, we will defend vigorously. Because we will have the videotape to corroborate the truth, and so to a statement from eyewitnesses.
Okay.
And, life brings some strange things. When we get the full statement, I will share it with the media. But what I have told you there is essentially a detailed summary than what is in the Associated Press report.
Okay.
All right.
All right. PM, before you leave us, of course, the ULP government yesterday celebrated 11 years.
Oh, yes.
Government, and on Sunday we had to Arabica. I know you'll have something to say about that.
Well, I want to thank the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines for giving us 3 consecutive terms, and we are in our 11th year. I think objective observers in this country and elsewhere would say we have done quite well. And we are doing our celebration in the form of a family day. Sports, music, dominoes, drafts,
Pijo.
As you know, I'm a honorary life member of the World Domino Federation, and therefore I intend to take on several persons who consider themselves to be top-class domino players.
Wow.
I like the one of notes of one into Denny. That's a note.
and I understand there are 2 DJs, and so we begin at 10. A number of persons would gather, I suspect, by midday, slightly after midday into the early afternoon. Let's just have a wonderful evening of communal engagement, enjoyment, peaceful, in accordance with the tried and tested values of our Caribbean civilization. This is Vincentian component. Enjoy our nature, beautiful Rabaca. The Atlantic Ocean is there. The breezes. Oh, we thank God for our blessings.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Prime Minister.
Thank you.
All the best. It was a pleasure.
Have a good